Time for a confession. I'll be honest. In the Court of the Crimson King, I know it's a famous album. I know there's a lot of people on this channel who've heard it. And I know that a lot of them are going to go, oh my gosh, I don't believe it, when I say I've never heard the album. Hey everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Robert Kinsler.
And welcome to the news. This is the weekly show where Robert and I discuss the music news headlines and new music releases that have grabbed our interest and that we want to share with you. As always, we can't cover everything. So if we missed anything, please share in the comments and show your support by clicking the like and playing these videos to the very end so that the YouTube algorithm recognizes us. Now, this week, we both have news and stories we want to share about upcoming releases by King Crimson, Depeche Mode, Ringo Starr, First Aid Kit, Esperanza Spaulding, and also we want to reflect on the passing of country legend Loretta Lynn. Without further ado, I'm going to just get started here and discuss a new release from King Crimson. King Crimson has announced the physical release of their documentary film In the Court of the Crimson King, King Crimson at 50. You know, Robert, recently you talked about the Creedence Clearwater Revival film entitled Traveling Band. I also followed up after hearing you talk about it. I did a video about the documentary, my own thoughts on it too. This film sounds very similar, actually. Let me talk a little bit about it here. The movie chronicles the influential prog rock group's career, covering everything from their multiple lineup changes to moments of reinvention within their musical sound. In the Court of the Crimson King, King Crimson at 50 premiered at South by Southwest earlier this year. The film later enjoyed a limited theatrical run in the UK and was made available for streaming services in October. It would appear only streaming services in the UK, though. However, if you have a VPN, you can switch that to the United Kingdom and watch it on your computer. If it's on one of the streaming services you subscribe to, like say Netflix, if it's available on Netflix UK, but not Netflix here in the US. But otherwise, though, it is coming out physically. I'm going to go back to the press release here, which I've been reading from. In an interview with Filmmaker Magazine, director Toby, if I can say this right, Amos, A-M-I-E-S, noted that King Crimson leader Robert Fripp was not interested in making a conventional rock doc biography. The idea was to avoid being a lot of old men talking about the good old days or the bad old days in some people's cases. Ames explained, to try and make something that was more vital, something that was more in tune with the idea of King Crimson being a way of doing things as opposed to a set organism. Not really sure what that last part really means, to be honest. But again, coming out physically, the standard edition of In the Court of the Crimson King will be released November 11th and is available for pre-order. The as a two-disc Blu-ray DVD set. A limited edition 8-disc box set edition will also arrive on December 2nd. You can, of course, find out more at King Crimson's website. Should be cool. I would like to see this, especially after my experience with the Creedence film. Creedence was a film that I mainly knew for their hits. This has certainly taught me more about the band. I have a feeling this film is going to follow a very similar path in that it will lead up to a concert performance, but first give us some good information about the band. And King Crimson, a band that I've been aware of, but have never explored very deeply. And I think it's high time I learn a little bit more about them. So I'm going to be looking forward to checking this out.
And that's good for advice for me as well, TJ, because I also don't know very much about King Crimson. You know, obviously I know the name. I've heard some things that they've done, but yeah, it might be good for me to pursue watching that as well. And especially like you said, if it leads up to a concert where then you get to see them perform and hear some of their original material, that sounds great.
Time for a confession. I'll be honest. In the Court of the Crimson King, I know it's a famous album. I know there's a lot of people on this channel who've heard it. And I know that a lot of them are going to go, oh my gosh, I don't believe it, when I say I've never heard the album. So, true confession, I've never heard the album, and I feel very embarrassed to say that. And let me ask you, Robert, have you ever heard it?
I have not.
No way.
Okay. So let's ask everybody out there what they think of us listening to the album for the first time and then getting together and discussing it as two newbies. And let us know what you think of that, everybody. Robert, I'll let you just take it from here. I know you got some stuff you want to talk about.
I definitely do, TJ. First, though, we want to wish Ringo Starr a quick and full recovery from his announcement last week that he had caught COVID-19 and had to cancel several tour dates in the United States and Canada. So I went to his website right before we shot the episode this morning. I don't see any updates since that initial update, so I'm hoping that he's in the midst of focusing on a full recovery and that he gets well soon. But it is incredible to think about. But Ringo's now 82, which is almost insane to think about. The drummer of the Beatles now is 82 years of age. But I saw him just a few years ago, and he's in great health, puts on a great show, sounds great, and has a lot of fun with the audience. And so, which leads us into the next item that we're going to talk about, is that Ringo is set to release his next official release, which is titled Live at the Greek Theater 2019. And this is a release that's going to come out via DVD, Blu-ray, and audio CD, and it's coming on November 25th. Now, that date may ring a bell with some of our viewers out there because that's Record Store Day. And to boot, Ringo's going to release a special yellow double LP of the new release. That's going to be issued, obviously, in limited quantities at your favorite retailer that date. So if you're a fan of Ringo Starr or any of the great artists that are on his that are in his all-star band, might want to definitely head to your favorite record store early that day and maybe pick a copy of that up on vinyl as well.
Go ahead. That's the Record Store Day release, though, right? There is
a
going to
Record
be
Store Day release. Yeah, the DVD and Blu-ray and all the stuff in the audio CD, those are going to be available anywhere, Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, any of your favorite outlets where you get music. But that vinyl release is going to be as an exclusive for Record Store Day. So I imagine it's going to be snatched up very quickly on November 5th, I would think, by Beatles and Ringo Starr fans.
More than likely, I would say so, yes. I myself got to see our Ringo Starr and his all-star band a couple years ago before the lockdowns occurred. And one member of his band was Todd Rundgren. And I wanted to just take this moment to transition and talk about a new single that has been released by Todd Rundgren, featuring Thomas Dolby, who I'm sure at least a few people who follow this channel know him for his hit song "Blinded Me with Science."
And he has many other, TJ, not to cut you off, I saw him at a very small, intimate club show, maybe right before the pandemic. He blew me away. He not only would perform some of his songs, but then he would give the stories behind the song. Again, he's one of these artists I would encourage everyone to go listen to him beyond his big hit,
Absolutely.
So and I know I cut you off, so you go ahead, TJ.
Sure, no problem. So back in August, Todd Rundgren announced a new album that he'd be releasing called Space Force. It was going to be one of those albums where it's filled with guest stars. It'll be out later this month in October, and it features among some of its guest stars The Roots, Rivers Cuomo of Weezer, Cheap Trick's Rick Nelson, the Lemon Twigs, Sparks, Steve Vai, Crowded House's Neil Finn, and speaking of, King Crimson's Adrian Belew, to name a few. So this weekend, he dropped a new single entitled "I'm Not Your Dog," featuring Thomas Dolby. And I'm going to just really quickly read from the press release. "I'm Not Your Dog" is a cathartic rallying cry against society's most formidable tools of oppression, in parentheses, religious, political, and financial, that leaves so many feeling lost. Over pulsing bass lines and swirling synths, the collaboration fuses an unwavering iconoclastic vision with Rundgren and Dolby's unique gifts for melody and production. And that's from the press release. I describe this as a cool bit of dark synth pop, and it's just a very cool collaboration. Just wanted to give this single a shout out and recommend that you go check it out.
I'm going to be listening to that song today. I saw Todd Rundgren a few times perform with Ringo Starr, and he's just he what a great singer-songwriter and very interesting. His solo career and obviously with Utopia as well. Just I'm very excited to hear this album and this single. Thanks for bringing it to my attention.
You got it.
Now I'm going to take it from here, TJ. I'm very excited. Um, Swedish duo, one of my favorite Americana acts of the last 15, 20 years is First Aid Kit, and they are back with a great new song and a really cool music video that really captures kind of the spirit and the sound of the song. The song kind of sounds like the Laurel Canyon kind of folk rock that we got, think of Linda Ronstadt, Jackson Brown, Neil Young, kind of the 70s music. And this song is called Turning On To You, and it's a very fun video, kind of like they're doing an impromptu jam, like at a house with people just kind of hanging out. It just harkens back so much to Los Angeles in the 1970s. And here they are, two sisters from Sweden, but they do a great job. And I really recommend everybody, just go to YouTube, search First Aid Kit and Turning Onto You. Great video directed by Mats Udd. And I think you'll really like it. And it's also a great introduction to First Aid Kit and their sound. And this single is off their upcoming album, which is called Palomino, and that's set for release on November 4th via Columbia Records, and I hope everyone will check that out.
So a couple of weeks ago, Robert, you of course announced the Smithereens Lost Album, as it's titled. It is a Lost Album, and it's called Lost Album. And you reviewed the advanced single, but the album's out now. I understand you have a review that you already posted on your blog page, which is musicworthbuying.com. And
right.
I want to take a moment and just recommend Robert's blog, musicworthbuying.com, where Robert reviews a lot of things that we can't get to on the channel here. But I really definitely, when I saw your review, I definitely wanted you to be able to talk about this here on the channel here. So please tell us about the Lost Album by the Smithereens.
I will. So as people might know, and this is bittersweet, Pat DiNizio was kind of the lead singer and not the only songwriter in the band, but I think he was responsible for a good majority of the songs and also their sound. He had a very rich baritone voice, kind of like a lot of melancholy and in the songs he wrote, and also just his vocal presence. Well, he passed away back in December of 2017, and that appeared that was going to be the final kind of statement we ever heard from Pat DiNizio. Well, fast forward 5 years later, and now we have the Lost Album. And this is crazy because this is a full-length album that the band recorded between record contracts. And it's a really good album. It's not an album of throwaways like, oh, that's, those could have been B-sides or this and that. This is a very good album. It's a full-length album, and it's kind of like somebody went back in a time machine. Maybe the band didn't do the album 11 or something, and then they did this album instead. But here we have a whole new album. I know there's been a few events like this in rock music history over the years, but this is one of the most exciting ones that's happened for a while, and I really consider this a masterwork. It doesn't include the full original lineup of the band, which is Pat DiNizio on rhythm guitar and lead vocals, Jim Babjek on lead guitar, bassist Mike Massaros, and then drummer Dennis, and I hope I say his name right. It's either Dyken or Dickon. There's some great songs here, great rockers like A World Apart, Stop Bringing Me Down. There's a really great garage rocker, which is probably as intense as anything they ever did, called Monkey Man. So this is just a great album. And if you are a big fan, or even a casual fan of the Smithereens, check out the Lost Album. I do not think you'll be disappointed. And you can learn more about the band at officialsmithereens.com.
Sounds like there's a story behind why this never got released. Has anything been announced about that? I'm just kind of curious.
I think what happened, I think you can kind of read behind the lines, and I know there's been some interviews with the band members that I haven't had a chance to catch, but I think what happened is because they were probably wanting to stay busy, but I think they were probably focused on trying. At that time, you pretty much had to have a record deal if you were going to get your music out there, especially if you were a band like their level. So I think they probably, I'm guessing here, they use these recordings to maybe secure their next record deal, but then the record label probably had them go into the studio they picked with the engineer or the producer they wanted, and and you and I have both been around the industry and know that that's not that unusual, that that's
Yeah.
probably kind of what happened. But fortunately, the band didn't destroy these tapes. They sounded like they were kept safe, and the original analog tapes were preserved well. They sound terrific. I when I reviewed the album originally, I did it just using streaming on YouTube, but then subsequently the label did send me the album and it sounds even greater. It's a really great album, and boy, I've loved listening to it.
Excellent. I also want to talk about an album that I've really enjoyed over the last 10 years. Esperanza Spaulding's Radio Music Society is going to get a 10th anniversary release. This was her fourth album, and it's going to be released by Craft Recordings on December 2nd. It is available for pre-order. However, though, unlike some of these anniversary releases, we're only going to see a 2 LP set on 180 gram vinyl. I believe there's also going to be a high-res digital audio version, a download version you can purchase as well, but no news about any type of a CD or anything else. This might be because the album's only 10 years old. It's probably doesn't need a remaster at this point yet. The technology may not be there to do anything for it. The CD is still readily available, whereas the LP release that came out 10 years ago, very hard to get, very expensive aftermarket prices if you want to try to get it. Esperanza Spalding, many people might know, very memorably won the Best New Artist title at the 2011 Grammy Awards, and upset and angered Justin Bieber fans the world over in doing so. Radio Music Society included the singles Black Gold and Radio Song. And the album debuted at number 10 on the Billboard 200 and number 1 on the jazz charts, also hitting the top 40 in Japan and countries across Europe. I personally love this album. I've always enjoyed it. I recommend it. So glad to see it's going to get an LP release. The CD is still very readily available, brand new, on Amazon for like $12.99 as kind of to give you an average price. If you never checked it out before, I recommend checking it out or streaming it. I'm glad to see that it's getting this reissue on LP.
Now, I'm going to next talk about the return of a great British band. The fate of the band was not 100% certain after one of the key members passed away back in the spring of this year. But like other musical greats like Paul McCartney, Neil Young, and Ringo Starr, the members of Depeche Mode are not ready to retire. And we learned that last week via a high-profile press update where they had a special event in Berlin, Germany, where they announced that they have an upcoming album and they're going to be embarking on a world tour in 2023. The name of the tour is going to match, basically be in sync with the album title, which is Memento Mori. And that, like I said, is due in spring of 2023. And I'll just read a little bit from the press release from Depeche Mode that was issued. It says, "I think that it's important to say that all the songs and the album title were decided before Andy Fletcher passed. The album title is Memento Mori, which means remember that you must die." I think that a lot of fans are really looking forward to this album. I think it's probably going to be very important to the band, given not only kind of a lot of it was completed during the pandemic, but that because they did lose one of their members. So now it's going to be Dave Gahan and Martin Gore are going to continue on as Depeche Mode, and we'll see how things work out with the tour and album. But I think it is very exciting that they just didn't come to an abrupt halt when Fletcher died. I think it's nice. I think the fans had wanted them to return and at least issue one more album and go out on one big tour, because they are known as such an amazing live act, kind of like a Bruce Springsteen, where they just have this amazing power, and like you two as well. I mean, the concerts I've seen, whether it was at Coachella or when they've headlined their own shows, have been amazing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in 2023 here with the new album and the tour.
Before we say goodbye today, Robert and I both just want to reflect on the passing of country music legend Loretta Lynn. And full disclosure, Robert and I, we're mainly rock and pop guys. We like a little bit of country music. We're not country music people. We both talked about it. And we both felt like there's just no way that we can just pretend like this didn't happen, because her influence has been so far-reaching and she's been loved by so many. And so I'm just going to read a little bit here from the Associated Press on the passing of Loretta Lynn. Loretta Lynn, the Kentucky coal miner's daughter, whose frank songs about life and love as a woman in Appalachia pulled her out of poverty and made her a pillar of country music, has died. She was 90. In a statement provided to the Associated Press, Lynn's family said she died Tuesday at her home in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. Our precious mom, Loretta Lynn, passed away peacefully this morning, October 4th, in her sleep at home in her beloved ranch in Hurricane Mills, the family said in a statement. They asked for privacy as they grieve and said a memorial will be announced later. Lynn already had 4 children before launching her career in the early 1960s, and her songs reflected the pride in her rural Kentucky background. As a songwriter, she crafted a persona of a definitely tough woman, a contrast to the stereotypical image of most female country singers. The Country Music Hall of Famer wrote fiercely about sex and love, cheating husbands, divorce, and birth control, and sometimes got in trouble with radio programmers for material from which even rock performers once shied away. Her biggest hits came in the 1960s and 70s, including Coal Miner's Daughter, You Ain't Woman Enough, The Pill, Don't Come Home a Drinkin', with Lovin' on Your Mind, Rated X, and You're Looking at Country. Lynn told the AP in 2016, I didn't write for the men, I wrote for us women, and the men loved it too. And so we just want to say, rest in peace, Loretta Lynn.
And TJ, I think it's important to acknowledge too that she was the most awarded female country recording artist, and she had 24 #1 singles, and that's that's very impressive. And like you said, her legacy, and you saw it on Twitter and Facebook, the wealth, not only country artists, but so many rock artists were also so inspired by her and by who she was as an artist and also her songs. So I think it's great that we kind of pay tribute to her here today.
I was thinking about the movie after reading about her passing. I was thinking about the movie The Coal Miner's Daughter, which I've seen. And I think that movie was kind of an early, I would almost say that movie was kind of an early, what's the word I'm looking for?
Biopic kind of thing, huh?
Well, there were musical biopics before that film, of course, but I feel like that film was kind of set a template for the modern music biopics that have come since.
Yeah. It dealt with subjects in a very honest and authentic way that maybe we hadn't always seen previously. I think you're absolutely right with that.
Anyhow, though. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for making it here to the end. And as always, if was something in the music news that we didn't talk about, please mention it in the comments so we can all read about it. If you like these videos, once again, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. And thank you to the patron supporters. Patron supporters do receive exclusive weekly videos every week that are not here on the channel. And if you'd like to be a patron supporter and get your name in the credits and watch the exclusive weekly videos, please go to patreon.com/TJR, the original. And Robert, good talking music with you. Look forward to seeing you next week.
You too, TJ.
All right.
Great week.
We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.